So, all right. All right. So, good evening, everyone. One sec. Welcome, everyone. Good evening or good afternoon in some places. This is Dr. Kiran here. I'm one of the neonatologists working in Sidra Medicine, Doha, Qatar. And welcome to our monthly webinar series of organization called Inspire. So just giving a couple of minutes, what Inspire is, it's an Indian association of pediatric and neonatal intensive care. And it's a very unique organization of doctors and nurses combined. So we have physicians from pediatric super specialty and emergency medicine, PICU and ICU, and as well as we have nurses across the Qatar working in the various pediatric super specialties, and they all are Indian origins. So this is the platform bringing us all of us together. We aim to sort of we had some visions and goal, but it was mainly done for academic interest and also some promoting social interaction and helping all individuals for for their academic and career achievements. And unfortunately, organization was formed and then the COVID was hit. So after our first initial activities, now we have just doing mainly the online webinars, and we have a quite enthusiastic team of doctors and physicians which are involved with us. And without going much into detail, looks like some technical glitch here. Oops, my slides are stuck. One sec, some issue here. So yeah, so just trying to go briefly quickly. So we have a quite active core committee of doctors and nurses, mixed blender, and also a senior sort of advisory associated team with Professor Samir, Anand, Sudhakar, and Manu advising us. So before wasting time, I will hand over the proceeding to Dr. Soni, NB Soni. He is a consultant neonatologist at Sidra Medicine Doha. He's from UK, worked for 20 years in UK as a consultant, and he's back here in Qatar with us. We are very fortunate. He's our IT guru. He's a very techno, and he's already working on a project for involving artificial intelligence, and he's a mastermind for our IT. So he's the best person to moderate today's session. So over to you, Dr. Soni.
Thanks, Kiran. Welcome, Professor Satish. It's my privilege and honor to moderate this session along with Dr. Manu Sundaram. This is our first interaction, and when Kiran mentioned about the topic, I was really very excited about it because this is something, while studying medicine and being a consultant over the last 12 years, somehow I have had an interest developed in keeping myself with some developments in the IT and computers and how best they can be used bedside. So it'll be interesting to listen to you and get all of us enlightened. And hope that whatever knowledge we receive from you, we will be able to implement in some of the work which we are doing here. This is the Inspire organization, and we are we are trying to run an Aspire project as well, which is artificial intelligence based on the real-time integration of the bedside patient data. Because of the COVID, we are having some glitches, but hopefully we are able to progress forward. We have found some contacts, so we may be able to take forward very soon. And obviously we'll come to you for help and advice if we get stuck somewhere. So at this point, looking forward to listen to you. And may I ask Dr. Manusundaram to formally introduce Dr. Satish to the forum, and looking forward to listen to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. And I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Satish Dev Pujari. Now, whatever words I say, they are very less to describe Dr. Satish Dev Pujari. He is a professor of pediatrics, professor of pediatric intensive care, professor of applied engineering practices, and he is also director of an artificial intelligence institute. Sir has taken various academic positions through his long career, multiple publications, multiple international collaborations, and he is a man known internationally as the Algo Man. One of my very fond memories seeing him as a keynote speaker in a very large conferences. He comes onto the stage, all that he has is an Apple iPhone in his hand, and he speaks and he projects using his entire talk using just the Apple iPhone. I was completely, I just thought, this is technology. I've never seen anyone come, even in TED Talk, I haven't seen anyone come and use an iPhone for all their PowerPoint presentations, and it was wonderful. Over to Algo Man, Dr. Satish Dev Pujari.
I'm making you host, sir.
Sir, over to you, please.
Yeah. Oops. Just one sec. So you're host now, sir? Can you check? You can share?
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay, one sec. U5IH says, I think I made you host already, sir. Just check, sir, if you are able to.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Can you see my desktop?
Yes, sir. It's not full screen yet, but yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yes, we can, sir. Thank you.
So, Dr. Manu and friends, honestly, it's a very interesting group I'm seeing today, and I'm very thrilled. Normally, most of us with clinical medicine background don't get interested into the applied technology. And I believe that we'll have to kind of have the knowledge base and turn our ways in a way that we will learn technology, because we would be governed by technology in maybe a few years, maybe about next 10 years. How I got introduced into this is that basically I wanted to do something and apply it in our country. And that made me realize that in every socio-cultural situation, the need is different. And there can't be a single stamp that can be put up for the practice of medicine. And as was pointed out by Manu, that all of us would be doing the same thing with good intentions, but the need in a particular place or a socio-cultural organization would be different. And there has to be a common platform where friends like us could join in this venture. So, and I love this topic, medical innovations and trends and relevance. Relevance was the best part. There has to be technology will need to be relevant to time and to place. Otherwise, this would not really work. So, reaching technology where it matters most is an art, an extremely important point. We need to reach technology where it would be relevant, where it would change the medical practice. And this brought me into the topic of technology. So I started learning computing languages. So I started learning C. Now I know C+ programming to a large extent. And I was one of the first persons who bought a computer in Nagpur. It was just a simple PC. And that time the cost was more than ₹1 lakh. I must admit, the help given by my wife, she never divorced me for my passion for technology. That balance was not easy to maintain, but it was a very happy kind of an amalgamation of technology and medicine. Now, we have a very interesting group of friends, Satej Medinova. And we kind of call ourselves as innovators. So I'm a medical man here. Rest of them are technology fellows. And some of them are really brilliant. I'm very proud of some of them, and you'll be surprised. They know intensive care sometimes more than me, because they have the ability to grab the technology much faster. And especially a sound mathematical background makes them really good. So now when it comes to making something, this is an extremely important statement, especially in our country like India, that we are not students of some subject matter, but students of problems. And problems cut across the border of any subject or of discipline. So if I have to make something, then I will have to know related medical issues. I'll have to know physics. I'll have to know medicine. There'll be someone who will know metallurgy. And if this is not achieved, the whole technology could be just remaining in books. And somehow in our teaching, this was missing. So I always felt the lacuna. If you remember in our childhood, we were kind of involved in making some projects. And those projects and making them, it could be simple, but making something, creating something really needs patience and perseverance. And most people would miss in this ability. So in this COVID time, I donated a couple of my teaching models to AIIMS. So it started with AIIMS Nagpur. And the project was called as Know, Operate and Build. And it started with first MBBS. So know lungs, try and operate a model and build the model and go on. The idea was that we involve right from first MBBS students in making things right where you stay by using material and objects available right locally there. So we donated a couple of them to the institutes around. And of, please pardon me if at the end of the lecture, I will, it will look that I'm trying to kind of only project what I have done. It is not to say that I've done something extraordinary. Seriously, I really mean this. But this way, I'm going to put it on this platform as to how I could do a couple of these things. So, the medical apps. Now, when I started developing these apps, what were the issues and what were the challenges? And there were a lot of learning points. One of the important points was, everyone, so I get a lot of requests from friends, Dr. Dev Pujari, I want to develop an app. And on a particular situation, like in Iran, one of the pediatricians wrote to me that they want to develop an app on pediatric hypertension. It seems that that was a problem in that part of the world, in one of those areas. And this lady was very passionate. She wanted to do that. I said, do one thing. First, write an algorithm that you follow in trying to teach or treat hypertension. So when you write a precise algorithm, it makes it easy for a developer to go ahead. For example, if you buy an Apple phone, it will ask you to enter date, time, and all that is related to where you are. In that place, like in the US, the time scale could be different. So for them, time could be day starts depending on where you are. Even in the US, which part of US. And even that way, for me, it could start at 7 o'clock morning. For money, it could start 6 o'clock morning. So if it comes to day, it has to have all those bifurcations, which normally we don't look into. So that precision becomes an extremely important thing for any of these technical products. And the idea in developing those apps was, I wanted to develop, there's still certain things missing, which I'll be completing in about a few months, something from environment to mitochondria, where the gases flow, and to give the precise thinking in getting up to and making those apps. Now, for example, we have been teaching oxygen diffusion curve. So it's so easy. I take a blackboard, draw a curve like this, right? Saturation on this side, partial pressure on this side. So that was my first app, which I developed. And I went to the developer. I told him, I need to develop an app on ODC. And it's very simple. You have to an XY axis like this and draw this app, draw this curve. So it's fine. This is an image you are giving me. I said, yes, so you want to develop this image? I said, no, I want to know at every point that I'm changing my pressure, what is the saturation? He says, I said, I draw something like this. He said, no, that's not going to work. If the partial pressure is 38, the saturation is exactly going to be 50.7. And you need to know, and you need to tell me the exact mathematics on this curve. And you're surprised, I searched a lot of places until I found a veterinary journal where they worked on some human ODC curve. And that gave me a perfect relationship, mathematical relationship between saturation and pulse oximetry or a partial pressure. So then I said, okay, you shift the curve to left and the binding of oxygen to hemoglobin increases. And I need to shift that curve leftwards. So what he did is, this was a curve drawn. He shifted the whole curve left. I said, no, that's not going to happen. It will be binding on both of the ends. Only the middle part will shift. He said, the middle part means what? You need to define that part for me. So when you talk to a technology fellow, we'll have to be more mathematical and absolutely precise. I mean, otherwise, most often I saw a lot of my friends want to develop an app, but in my opinion, not even 7-8% would go ahead fully with that. And then they'll end up in some trouble with the developer, because he wants to be very clear kind of order that, you curve shifts means it has to be this much shift. It has to be shift here and not there. So all these are extremely important challenges that I went through when these apps were developed. So the first most important thing, as you can see here, this algorithm. Now, if there are a couple of medical apps on blood gas, but none of them will arrive at a diagnosis like laxative abuse. They would give you metabolic acidosis with respiratory alkalosis, or they might give you a triple disorder. But none, and I mention it, none of the apps will make a diagnosis of Barter's syndrome or Gittelman's syndrome, because these apps were developed by developers and not by a medical man. So the developer is aware of the underlying mathematics, and he will diagnose metabolic acidosis with respiratory alkalosis. But he doesn't know that if patient has metabolic alkalosis, has hypokalemia and altered urinary potassium loss, this will make Bartter syndrome. If this patient has hypertension, it would be different. If there is no hypertension, it would be different. So and in fact, this is where the medicine is going to go. And it is going to happen whether we want it or not. So this will be essentially based on flowcharts or the algorithms. So in fact, if you want to enjoy technology, like I have developed an algorithmic mind. If a problem comes to me, I start thinking this way. This will happen? Yes, no. If no, these are the 4 things. If this is what, then this is going to happen. And if this is not happening, then I go back to the square, try and pursue that algorithm until we develop the protocols or the algorithms. We are just nowhere. And I'm seeing this huge mess that's happening in our country in COVID, because literally there are no protocols. I mean, a patient comes with COVID, is hypoxemic. Somebody would give oxygen with 3 liters. Somebody would give oxygen mask. Someone might try a rebreathing mask. But there's nothing precise that if a patient comes, find out. Comorbidity, yes, no. What is the degree of hypoxia? So saturation so and so. Okay, is his blood pressure normal? No, ask this. Then go on to the method. Give oxygen, start with 5 liters with mask, nasal mask, or start with 5 liters with nasal prongs. So is there a response? Wait for 30 minutes. No response, do this. Now this is where, and I'm so impressed with your group. I know sometimes it could be boring to you. It can happen. So I caution you today that then you might regret having called me, but this is the future of medicine. And this is where the technology fellow will win over us. So in fact, last 1 month, we are working on a very interesting combination of certain things like Venturi walls. And we're going to just start a project in Pune with Dr. Iyer, who is a professor and head of critical care there, in trying to establish the practical approach to a patient when his saturation is low. It is only when we will define that path that there'll be a learning curve. Otherwise, like, we're treating, say, 60,000 patients with low oxygen and everybody trying to do his own way. Nothing would be learned until we precisely define a path on which to go. So you see this algorithm, and in our app, this algorithm is given, and the app works on this algorithm, and it makes a diagnosis of a disease which the ABG values would reflect. Now, one request. There's one software which all of us must learn if you really want to get into a hardcore critical medicine, or say, for example, branches like neonatology. Neonatology is a class example where technology should be used maximally, because there's nothing depends on the patient's response. There are just about 10 signs and symptoms which the newborn would present with. So if his temperature goes down, he's hypothermic. I would ask a question, is that a rectal temperature? If it is so, I'm sure it will be most often. Then there will be an algorithm on which to act immediately, or we have some time. If we have some time, then go this way. So same will be applied for every small reason. And especially in branches like neurology, almost nothing should work without algorithms. And in next 10 years, please mark my words, it will be governed by the technical fellow much more than medical chaps. Like, for example, there's persistent computers in Nagpur. Almost a lot of work from Sweden in terms of genetics comes to this institute, and the report gets back in 24 hours. And then they could diagnose a couple of the rare genetic disorders, all diagnosed in person systems in India. None of them are doctors. So everything is now microimaging algorithms and would be technologically driven. One of the most important things to know, I don't think I would have ever worked and to these apps if I would have not known Microsoft Excel. I must accept one and very important thing. I have a very close friend, Dr. Vivek Shivare, brilliant fellow in Excel. In fact, last time I took some lecture on A due to difference. And the entire thing that we did was a hugely dynamic numbers and interesting curves in saying as to how if I have to changes, if PaSO2 changes, if tidal volume changes, what really happens to arterial ABG if the A gradient is so and so. And you could just kind of play with this, but without knowing Excel, it would be impossible to learn about technology. And the probabilities were huge. The probabilities that existed with the ABG were amazing. So we combined so many things in trying to get the diagnosis. So when you try and mix things, the number of probabilities could just go up. So when you see my app on ABG, and I'm so happy that you all help us in doing this job. So see, this is an Excel file. And this I'm trying to change the pH. So if I select a pH of such and such, then PaSO2 of whatever number, and you see the red dot. Have you seen the red dot moving there? So this red dot moved in this file. And now please see carefully as to how it moves. So the probabilities could be as much as in thousands. And they happen because, you can see, probabilities of almost 17,000 various combinations and permutations. I would have never worked out all those if I would not have used the Excel worksheet. So it is an important thing to do. And this Excel worksheet, as this red dot moves here in the graph, in the beautiful graph that we drew out of the Henderson-Hasselbalch equation. So the same equation is shown here. Only thing is the format is, see, the red dot has moved. And the ABG app that you are seeing on your, I've given you a dynamic screenshot of my phone, and the same values are reflected there in this app. So it's only when I gave to my developer these numbers and then explained him, he could develop this fantastic piece of software. And believe me, I'm so proud that this software team in India developed this free for me. You know, I'm quite nostalgic of this. It's not easy to develop those kind of apps and this kind of graphical representation that you see, and all was done free. Then what I did was I developed this hardware teaching model. It's just an XY axis model. So these are the kind of models which I use for teaching. And I want our first MBBS students to learn how to make these models, how to change various figures, and how to make it in India. So one of the first steps on so-called indigenization is to teach students to make models, working models, and let them play with it. So this was another fantastic experience I had. And these are the various apps. And it's a part of Edwards and Kerouacin's book in neurology. And the last few pages are on these apps. So they are useful at bedside. And a huge number of, I don't think there's a country which is not using our apps. And, you know, if you ask me if you are in critical care, now this is one thing which no one ever would talk. In fact, the entire exercise of ventilation essentially depends on alveolar gas equation. And wherever I took this lecture, you know, I had an occasion to take in a couple of excellent universities in US. Nobody wanted to discuss alveolar gas equation, and that is the crux of mechanical ventilation. So this can give you minute ventilation, this can calculate your dead space, this can calculate how the frequency of ventilation will relate to alveolar gases. How would they reflect into ABG? So the entire mathematics of alveolar gas equation is reflected here. It is just as such, nothing much. It's just trying to put the same equations of alveolar gas, same equations of finding out alveolar gas and its relation to AA gradient into an interesting playable mathematical model. So I might describe this is what I did was really honestly and truly nothing big, converted the mathematics into a playable format. And try and play with this app and then try and understand the ABG or the mathematics and the algorithms involved, or the alveolar gas equation or A gradient, but don't start with the mathematics. That is, mathematics of ABG is a class example of academic terrorism. So we have to make it digestible and playable, and that is what we did with this. So all these are drawn on Excel files, and this is the crux of our the alveolar gas equation as to how the various gases change in relation to alveolar ventilation in liters per minute. I don't want to bore you with this, but to kind of try and emphasize the fact that we must teach our younger students to learn a couple of these softwares. And it's a very, very important thing. So one of then, like as I've said, I have developed this habit of trying to say if why this app can't be on iWatch. And one of the world's first app on iWatch is developed by us. This was inaugurated in Johns Hopkins. And so at bedside, you could easily assess your ABG values. I wanted to develop it further by just tap on that, and the report will go to the concerned person, and he could immediately kind of revert back to you with his advice. And all this is easily doable by a software person. And even there, and wherever I go, most often the question asked is, Dr. Deo Pujari, if you develop these kind of apps and a lot of things happen in background, don't you think the zeal to learn the topic would be lost? And my answer is, it is important to make difficult subjects playable so that you take out that fear. And once the fear is gone, the whole subject matter just melts, just becomes easy. And somehow I'm happy that, we could do this. And I firmly believe, say no to copy. None of my things I've copied from anywhere. Because especially in our country, it becomes a habit. So every of those slides that you see, none of them are copied from anywhere. And that's an important point. Because Apple is very, very careful. They would not accept anything that comes from something else. And then the whole app gets delayed. So the thing that was always worrying me was, if I get a ventilator, this is what happened in COVID. There's news. 4,000 ventilators shifted from US to India. It's like you buy 800 Boeings or Jaguars and make a news of that. But if you don't have pilots, you don't have airports, you don't have airfields where they would land, what good it would ever do? So until we make our teaching easy, this will not work. So we started developing simulators. And one of the first Indian simulator was made by me. It was a simple simulator which I made in Nagpur. And this simulated some simple things on ventilation, like it taught the ventilation perfusion relationship. It taught what is PEEP. It gave an idea of how the alveoli could be different in diseased lung. So there could be an alveolus which is getting distended, but there is no flow. Then alveolus where there is a flow, but no ventilation. And compare that with a normal alveolar ventilation relationship, ventilator perfusion relationship. So this was a model which was developed in Nagpur, and we shocked, hardly any cost. Hardly any cost. So if you buy a simulator from US in India, you'll be shocked the cost. The cost could be lakhs of rupees, more than a typical ventilator would be. The simulators would cost you maximum 20,000 rupees. And I'm not, I'm putting this, you're copying this, and I'm accountable for what I'm saying. So when you make things in India, now, they will not, like, you have a small car like a Nano, it can't be compared to BMW. But having it, making it, using it is important. So our idea was to make in our country, make it by our own fellows and students, and make a team which gets into this. And so a couple of simulators that we made are these. And see, you can see my house where we were working on them. And all this was done and it was not all that difficult, but we have interesting challenges. So again, coming back to the fact, reaching knowledge where it matters most is the crux. And we'll have to develop our own priorities. We can't be looking to the world, trying to do something which is not their priority. So we made simulators, and now I donated these simulators to AIIMS Nagpur to be used on first MBBS students. So a lot of my colleagues got very annoyed with me. Why do you donate those to physiology department? I said the things change in anatomy and physiology, and I must induce my students. So we, from our small group of friends, announce a prize that if the good students who makes an idea and makes a project, we will mature that project to make a good simulator. So what will happen? They'll have a sense of belonging. I made this simulator for my college and still existing there. So there's small little things we could induce, and that is what we're trying to do. And then one of my interesting project was making a sensor at the end of the endotracheal tube. So this research of mine was with Bits Pilani, and this paper was presented in ASME. ASME is the world's largest known conference of mechanical engineers, and this was in Texas. And I was surprised, even in US, I was the only physician presenting this paper. So they gave me a special this thing for that. So literally across the world is a big scope for physicians to kind of join hands and hand-holding with technology fellows. It is a huge raw area. So this sensor is patented, and we are working on certain further details of this sensor. This was with Professor Singru that I worked on this sensor. And it's a nano sensor. Like even, I know you're all in neurology. You'll be shocked how small a pressure sensor could be. It could be as small as not visible to the naked eye. So, you're a lot of units. This can be used. It's not a rocket science, and one can possibly use these things. So please, you could join hands with the technology fellows to kind of try and talk to them, and you'll be surprised. It's not difficult, but yeah, it needs that persistence. So it took about maybe 3 years to develop this sensor. So this was a summary of this paper. An attempt was made to design an MEMS based sensor, which is what the sensors normally iPhones use. And we studied the various loads and all that. And the sensitivity was then checked. And this was the work with Dr. Singru. Now, so it is the extension of imagination. And you imagine, and it is doable, especially with the help of technology. So we need to shake hands. And it's fun working with technology fellows. They have a different vision and a different way of looking at it. So those were sensors. And then, the app on Apple Watch. Now, presently, so I believe technology is a key. We in India are a late entrant. I agree, we'll have to maintain the balance of technology and medicine, and I'm a clinician at heart, so I can understand that. So, of course, the most important thing is time. Unlike us, technology fellows move so fast that they overtake each other very healthily. So we'll have to be very fast in trying to help on this. Of course, I've been always helped by, this is Mark Rogers, one of very good friends of mine. These fellows are ready to help in any of these things. So this was one of the projects we developed in and presented in national conference in Foxy in Bangalore. So if you want to train neuroresuscitation, So what we did again, all this is done in Nagpur by final year engineering students. So you are hearing the simulator that is talking at the background. So I'll show you as to what is happening here. You can see Dr. Kaustubh is in Abu Dhabi now. And see, you can see on a larger platform, the algorithm for research of babies. So there are a couple of things which could help. And so this is my app on algorithms. It helps you in developing algorithms. I'm going to skip that. Now, what we are trying to do now is to get into some other things essentially with COVID. So this is a oxygen helmet, which I was a team with IIT Bombay. So this is very popular in Italian countries. This gives CPAP and gives increased FiO2. So we developed in this particular thing. And this is the helmet developed by us. So it has an exhalation valve, exhalation port. We studied the flow dynamics in this. So once if the oxygen enters into this, what flow it takes can be very easily studied. So this was one of the oxygen elements. The detailed analysis of flow dynamics was done in IIT Bombay. So we have this Satej Medinova, wherein our new venture was to develop one of the world-class ventilators. We are almost there. We are stuck in making it an industrial. Sometimes the real trouble is making a product is difficult, but the difficult task is to make it industrial ready. So a couple of learning processes that we are going through. One of them is this, and so this was inaugurated by inaugurated in Nagpur, and we developed these models to teach our students, and they were donated to a couple of institutes across the Maharashtra. So this is my father, and he always inspired me. So I owe a lot of this to him. So he's an emotional blend of art and science. So friends, there are so many things. In fact, we are working very hard, and two of our products are going to be available in few days, and they are going to be a very interesting products. So we are in one small box. We are going to combine all the modalities of non-invasive ventilation. And we're also trying to do some changes on a Venturi valve project so that it becomes a high flow system for using COVID. Of course, these are challenges which depend on so many factors. And it could happen, I may not be successful in taking it to the marketing level because it's a huge challenge. So many big companies work against you. So many multinationals have been there for years together. And then it's not easy, even medical fraternity, to accept certain things which is made locally. And they're correct because we haven't developed that confidence in our own friends. So these are certain challenges against which we're trying to work. But I really appreciate from my heart you're inviting me to talk on this topic, which has sometimes no direct clinical relevance, but all the same. These are the trends. So when Manu gave this topic, the trends in medicine would be closely working with trends in technology. And we have to shake hands with them for this purpose. Once again, thank you for having invited me for this talk.
Thank you very much for that very inspiring talk. Has anyone got any questions for Dr. Satish Devpujari?
Manu, can I start off with the question if that's all right?
Sure, please.
For the comment
Yeah,
on
please.
the question. Professor Pujari, I am very, very impressed with the originality of the work and the passion with which you are doing. That is the most important thing I learned from you today, that if one cannot have a patience, cannot sustain patience, and if one is not afraid of failures, then things can't move on.
That's perfect.
Not everything one works on will lead to a desired outcome. But I guess the zeal of interest need to be there to move the things forward. If you move 10 things forward, maybe 1 or 2 may see the end, not necessarily desired end, but some end, and somebody else could take that forward. And the other aspect which I really liked was that inculcating this right in the first year of the MBBS students who are the youth, while they are learning the medicine, if they learn the technology at same time, then I guess they will be able to put in their practice right from the beginning, unlike some of us who were very late starters or late embracing on it to even have some sort of interest. So thank you so much for this enlightened talk. The one question which I wanted to ask about is that the apps are one way of easing our work and not necessarily remembering everything, so that something we can utilize our brain cells for something else. But is there any sort of work which your team with technocrats have taken forward where the predictiveness of it, for example, using the recurrent neural networks or long short memory algorithms to see that something very simple, like for example, in the clinical medicine, people have done with the heart rate, variability of the heart rate and sepsis developed into a hero score. Something like that. We've got so many vital signs. Has anything been worked on currently or in the process of working? If you can enlighten us, that would be great.
Thank you. And, the question that you raised is extremely important. But what is lacking, especially because I don't have a big institute with me, is the data. Your question relates to one simple fact. So I need data. And if I have that dynamic data, then I can draw a trend. That, for example, there could be early warning signs in newborn babies. It could be as simple, and I'm so happy you raised this question. It could be as simple as that. If there's a combination of this is not, I'm just trying to tell you the example. If there's a combination of hypothermia and tachycardia, if this combination is seen, then this could be more serious than hypothermia and with bradycardia. Now, you pointed out so very well. So if I get a data of say 500 babies, and at the end of the study, I find this kind of combinations would not be good. That's what exactly would be the triple layer AI would be. So as we go down, it is essentially boils down to the fact that an intelligent analysis of a data which can be evaluated. Sometimes in medicine, what happens, you collect huge data, right? AIIMS would have huge data there, but none of it is in a position that I can evaluate this. So you are in a place where you have a data, and data would be the costliest thing in the world in years to come, because technology fellows are just looking for it. And this data then can give the answer to your question, that we could then try and see this, like, I told you about more than 60,000 permutation combinations, right? So if you match and mix them and then come to, this is what was happening here, we could predict disease much earlier than what we are doing now. And you pointed it so well by simple things. And like early warning signs, they could tell us that this combination possibly would be ending into this kind of thing. So this data is very important. Unfortunately, it becomes TADA in our country. Okay. And I call this as what we get in our country. So people say, I have treated about maybe thousands of babies with neonatal sepsis and about the records. Now, all that record is, I call this as GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Okay. So that data is not analyzable. But this time with COVID, some of the good hospitals have come out with real good data, which has been acknowledged globally. So I think things are changing for good.
Thank you. Manu, would you like to go through some of the questions, and then whatever you miss out, and I can take it on, if that's okay? Yeah. From the chat, or would you like me to do the questions through the chat?
You can go through the questions from the chat. Yeah, I'm just looking through them.
Okay. So a lot of appreciative comments have come through for the talk. Some of them are asking about, are any of your apps freely or commercially available for neonatology providers? I think you addressed some of them, but is there a sort of one slide which could be shared with the people to say these are the kind of apps people can search for, say, Apple or Androids? And then, that would be helpful to everyone. So this is asked by Dr. Raju.
So yeah, all my apps are available free and very easy to get. So on Apple Store or on Play Store, if you write my name, Dev Pujari, you will see all the apps. And please use them. Give me feedback. I would be very, very happy if some things can be done and could be added to it. They're all available free. All of them.
Thank you. There's a lot of appreciation on your ABG app. Obviously, that's a big hit. So a lot of people have been using that. Question from Dr. Avinash Shukla is that, can we design a similar app for oncology? What are your views about the Watson computer? And then will be your next talk, maybe you're going to talk somewhere. So he would like to know a bit more about it. Similar app in oncology is the question. Can similar app be designed for the oncology?
Yeah, in fact, oncology is another such area where algorithms of different units are a rule. So one of my friends had a rare type of leukemia and I was following him. So it really is based on algorithms. Now developing, as I've said, developing an app honestly is a peanuts, is nothing much. If you have perfectly defined algorithm. So there should no ifs and buts on that. I mean, though I'm a medical man, I know enough to develop an algorithmic app. So if you give me the algorithm, whether no questions, that this is exactly what my approach would be, the app can be developed. Sometimes the only hitch with now with all the software fellows is they're extremely concerned about patient data. So Apple especially is very careful. They will be thinking, are you collecting some patient data? And that is becoming a major trouble. But there's a way to go around. So this app can work. And if they're satisfied that the patient that you're collecting has the element of privacy built in it, they would definitely allow you to go ahead with that. But in Europe and American countries, this is becoming a major stumbling block. And we need to satisfy them that the app will not be used for kind of misuse for patient data or safety.
Just on the extension of that question, if I were to ask from somebody, say somebody liaises with you with a view to, they have their algorithm, they worked on it, might need a little bit of tweaking, from giving the algorithm to developing an app and to test that app, especially the testing part of it, because once you give the algorithm, you can make an app, but for the app to work in a real scenario, how long does it take as the latent period for designing to testing it on a sort of a simulated patient to see that it works?
I guess would be about 1 or 2 months.
That's actually quite fast than what I was expecting. Yeah.
It all depends on what data you give me. you should give me an absolutely crystal clear path. There should be 200% clarity on that. And these fellows develop such complex algorithms. I was purview to one of in Tata's, I was saying, so if you lose or misplace your debit card in France and you're in Qatar, the algorithm I saw was running in something like 50 pages. Okay, so they would check date, time, where you are, what kind of currency, conversion. I mean, and all that can be developed in hardly a time. So that way, it's an amazing power. And believe me, India is an extremely powerful country and much economical than any other. So, you could really look to the country and get some of the good technology service at hardly any cost.
There's a question from Dr. Praveen Venkatgiri. How does one tackle the issue of, number one, authenticity of the algorithm, as these may be specific to certain individuals and not from the institutes? And number two, the copyright issues. Are we allowed to, for example, use the NRP algorithm for a wider usage, because that is being designed by the NRP people? Yeah. And do the resuscitation organization will then object because we are using their developed material into a different app? What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's a perfect question. So before I developed this app, I wrote to our Neural Association and took full permission from them. I told them that I'm developing this app for you. And they're very happy. I said, this will not be used for any commercial purpose. So this will, that is one condition. I said, okay, no question. This is going to be free, and it is free. But the algorithm belongs to them. NNF, algorithm belongs to NNF. Dr. Dev Pujari has no right on algorithms. So that priority and this thing is, but you'll be surprised. I wrote to American Academy of Pediatrics that I will develop an algorithm for you free. Okay, this will belong to you. Please develop a proper algorithm and send it to me. They are yet to send. It's about 2 years now. Seriously, making the NNF algorithm, we were 4 or 5 of us working. It was crazy. It was not easy. Now, once you put on paper, it becomes very easy. But our friends teach this, and they're excellent in teaching. But when you ask, please draw an algorithm, action-oriented. Try it just for the sake of it. Try it once. Like try an algorithm for tachycardia with narrow QRS complex. Now, nobody's going to keep that in mind every time. So I will feel that. But you try and put on paper. It will be a wonderful exercise. And once that can be done, we can always say that this doesn't belong to me. And this thing is written there in my apps that this belongs to NNF. Okay. And all the rights, the hard work, the beauty of all that is theirs. I just made a playable app out of that.
Thank you, sir. The another comment is, are there any apps available for transport ambulance? Or is it, I'm not sure if the question is asking from, are they available from anywhere else or from your resource? Transport ambulance related any application if you're developed to capture the data for the transport?
Not really.
So I think on the chats, I have gone through most of the questions. The rest of our comments admiring your works, especially getting the MBBS students early on to develop that interest, as we discussed earlier. There was one about the role of artificial intelligence, which you have partially addressed before. But somebody is asking that, not in digital format, do you have a plan to come up with a book on algorithm in neonatology?
The question is very good. My heart would lie there, but I'm not a neonatologist in that sense. But you give me the algorithms, okay, and I will develop the algorithm book in form of an app for you. Because see, I mean, I'm not an expert in trying to develop an algorithm for neutral hypocalcemia. I mean, there are hundreds of subjects which could be. So if you give me a technical input that this is the algorithm that we're looking for, I would be very happy to develop that.
Thank you. Manu, have I missed out on anything? Or we can take the
No,
live
you have
questions?
not. No, you have not. I checked. There is no other questions which is missing. And again, for the transport, somebody asked about a transport app. There is a website called pediatricemergencies.com. On that, there are some transport related apps and algorithms what they've created. That's another colleague of mine from UK who is very inspiring, just like Dr. Satish Devpujari. He's into making apps and algorithms for social use. That's what he says. So whatever he gets from his sales, he invests them again into creating them for social use in Northern Ireland. I presume it's, sorry.
No, go on, go on.
Yeah, so I think there's one new message which has come. Let's just see. It says there is a book, Algorithms to Life by the Computer Science of Human Decisions. Any comments on that, sir? That's a question by Avinash Shukla.
I've heard about this book. I want to go through it. So in fact, but I read about the preamble of this book. It looks interesting, but I haven't had a hand on it yet.
One of the excellent suggestions which I've come across, and I think that will be a very great step forward, is whether a CME could be organized with the biomedical and with the IITs, IIMs, and the physicians together to come to a forum where people can talk about what innovative ideas as a physicians which we have, and one which they can then develop and implement kind of thing. So whether that kind of forum, maybe an online forum to begin with, might be a good idea, Kiran.
Something like a boot camp?
Yeah.
It can be done.
Technology boot camp, yeah.
Very easily, and you'll be surprised the amount of enthusiasm that lies on the other side of it. And you'll be surprised their knowledge. Some of these fellows who are working with me on ventilators, because I mean they have that mathematical perception of the machines, amazing knowledge there. So I really, in fact, you know what, these are very rare occasions. So I must thank Manu and your group for having taken up this subject. I think we should make this CME more public on various platforms, not for Satish Devpujari. I'm seriously telling you. I mean, God has been, I'm very listening to me, but these are topics we must talk about it. Like, for example, you know, so many people literally kind of ridicule me. Satish, what are you talking of telling them ventilators in first MBBS? I said, I'm not teaching them ventilators. I'm just explaining them what is the relation of ventilation perfusion relationship, how it works, so that when it comes to it, they can learn it easier. So if we could do something like this, you know, make it on whatever media or whatever it is, make this CME more public with your own comments, whatever. And we should take this further. And I can tell you, IITs would be very happy. My own group would be extremely happy. Like, you know, we have a brilliant group and we just work for the craze of it. They'll be very happy to be part of a CME on mechanics of ventilation. And a lot of interesting things will come out. You'll be surprised. So this is possible. It's a very bright idea.
I think, yeah, great idea, sir. So very inspiring and motivational for us. And a lot of us are enthusiast and, you know, techno hungry, but a lot of time, you know, we get an idea, we think about it for a couple of days and then it dissipates, you know, like there's we don't, you know, sort of complete the loop. If you have accessibility to, you know, technology easily, and we can brainstorm on that idea and come up with something that's really useful. As I said previously, 2-3 apps I had in mind. One of the TPN app, I had actually created an Excel with all possible combination, including country specific. So when you were talking that, like milligram, millimoles conversions, and factoring out every this thing, it didn't end up having an app, but it's really inspiring. I wanted to invite Praveen to talk. We have Praveen Venkatgiri online. He's also another techno-savvy person I know in neonatology. Praveen, would you like to unmute yourself and open up? So he's developed sort of software and even a platform to monitor. And I think what our India is lacking is, as you rightly said, the data. We are not using electronic medical records for the cost, or for the for just lack of motivation to use it, or for various factors, even like the people don't have time. That's what majority people say, I don't have time to enter, but in fact it might be helpful to save your time. So I don't know, Praveen, would you like to just quickly talk about, you are one of our IT neonatology champ. Hi, Praveen.
Hi, Kiran. Sorry, I didn't expect you to.
No, well, I just saw. I'm always impressed with you. You are always working on some of the IT stuff. So he's developed a really nice platform, which I have seen. Anyway, so just
Doctor, it was fantastic talk. I've heard before as well, and always inspiring. And we always follow you. So what Kiran is alluding to, like 3 years back, I mean almost nearly now 4 years, we tried to do the tele ICU. Because in India, the major challenge is either lack of specialists or manpower, because the number of the babies are so high. So we thought maybe with the technology, can we try to reduce it? So that's how it started. But as you rightly said, there are major challenges. People won't accept the technology. And with all that, then a couple of years back, we developed the application, which is both on iOS and Android, which is called Nucleus. It's essentially digitizing the records. So what we've done is make it as like, how day-to-day records we kind of write. So it's a very easy to enter for nurses and doctors. And virtually about 90% of the paper is off now in the units that they're using. And we can integrate the machines to that as well. And we're not actually looking at currently artificial intelligence, other things, because major challenge is the uptake. Our healthcare professionals do not change their behavior. So that's the first thing that we want to tackle. So currently we're sticking to some remote monitoring and converting the paper to digital. And it's a journey that we want to kind of go through to next level of kind of improvements from there.
Thank you.
Yes, that's really good to know this.
No, I think definitely a lot of enthusiastic people, and I think as you rightly pointed, neonatology should be algorithm based, and I think there is definitely scope there. Even the SNCUs are working, and NNF has done great job in establishing them. But if you have an app there, like even the paramedics and the even the midwives, or even the local trained doctors there, can also manage the newborns more effectively. So this is probably, we will not stop you, so we'll pick your brain more and more, and we'll be in touch. So I think it's a good start and a good connection, and we'll take forward this association. So anyone else has any comments, Manu or Sony or Samir? Samir has logged off, I think.
No, I think we have covered all the comments
Yes.
within the chat box. Unless anybody has live questions, if people wanted to ask the last burning questions before we hand over to Kiran to give the vote of thanks.
So,
if there are no questions, Kiran, over to you and Manu back to end this session.
So I would like to thank all the participants for attending, taking time out of your busy schedules, whichever part of the world you are. Thank you very much for attending. And I'm sure that you've all been inspired by Dr. Satish Devpujari's talk as much as I've always been inspired by him. With that, I hand over to Kiran. Kiran, if you got any other.
Yeah, sure. No, so basically, just wanted to thank even NNF now actually has collaborated with us. So we have opened the NNF Qatar chapter. Dr. Pejawar has kindly, processed the formalities. Now we officially sort of established, but so we're looking to do more collaborative activities. Maybe IIP also might collaborate. The whole idea is again pure academics, and bring the expertise on both the sides in India, even overseas, and try to share knowledge. That's the whole purpose. And yeah, and thank you everyone, and thank you Inspire, my committee members, and a lot of people help in background to make these sessions. We are trying to build up. Even a journal club session is coming in 1 or 2 weeks, so we are trying to promote people who have published their data. They can come up and present their work. And also locally, there are a lot of publications are coming, so we'll try to acknowledge people who are doing good work. So yeah, so that's it. I think thank you very much. Thank you, Dev Pujari sir, for accepting the invitation. It was really an honor to connect with you, and it was really great listening to you, inspiring. And I was just thinking throughout your talk, we are definitely going to pick your brain again. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Sony, and thank you, Manu, for moderating this session.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.